What is up, guys? We are back for UFC 321 lock of the week. You already know how the video goes. We're going to start it off giving you guys my lock. We're going to move into the most confident picks, my favorite underdogs, and then we're going to wrap the video up with my favorite section, your favorite section, Makai's money making plays, the parlays. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and let's get the video underway. UFC Vancouver was one of those events that was just absolutely unpredictable. We had two bad nut shots. We had a fight get stopped and keep going. Took a TKO away from a fighter. We had split decisions. RDR quitting in the main event. It was one of those nights where you just couldn't figure out what was going to happen. We took Marlon Vera as the lock of the week last week. Lost in a very close fight that I thought he clearly won with two, damn near two knockdowns, a knockdown in the second. And he put on a really good showing.
Sets him down. Zahabi scrambling now.
Crazy jab by
Chito trying to keep him on the ground to attack.
I'm not mad at the read at all. I felt like, we were on the money with that one. Sometimes, when you play those games in the other fighter's hometown, it goes the other way sometimes. But it is what it is. We coming back for UFC 321. We got a lot of close lines, a lot of valuable fighters that I definitely like on this card. I do have one for you that I am honing in on, and I don't want to waste any more time. So let's get into UFC 321, the lock of the week. Azamat Murzakanov, who is sitting currently around -110, -115, floating on whatever book you guys could get it at. But I am all in on Azamat Murzakanov this week. He's taking on Alexander Rakic, who, if you don't know, has torn his ACL more recently than he's won a fight. Now, his last fight, he took on Magomed Ankalaev, former, short stint champion. Prior to that, he took on Yuri Prohaska, got knocked out, and then the loss 3.5 years ago now was against Jan Blachowicz, where he tore his ACL in that fight. So Alexander Rakic hasn't won a fight since 2020. I don't think he is a terrible light heavyweight. I just don't think that he can compete with the light heavyweights of today. You look at the fight with Magomed Ankalaev, you see how he was forced on the outside, very low output, and was really just there to survive. You look at the Yuri Prohaska fight, overextending himself, trying to force the fight, ends up getting knocked out. I don't think Azamat Murzakanov is a guy who is just going to get ran through, who's going to get bullied by Alexander Rakic because of the size. I feel as though Azamat is a guy who can definitely surprise him with his speed, with his technique. I feel as though he's a better kickboxer than Alexander Rakic. Rakic is definitely somebody who will throw his all into most of his shots. He's going to be very aggressive with the leg kicks early since it is an open stance. A lot of the rear leg kicks are going to be there for Alexander Rakic. And if you look at the Yuri fight and the Magomed Ankalaev fight, he throws hard very early. He's in the first round of the Yuri fight, he was already gassing. First round of the Magomed Ankalaev fight, he was a little less, output, but he still was throwing everything pretty hard. You can see him taking deep breaths very early. Azamat Murzakanov is definitely very tactical, very defensively sound. He will check majority of those kicks. We see it in the Dustin Jacoby fight where, yes, later in the fight, he did, face some adversity, but that's a positive to me. I don't like, undefeated fighters who, when they get to a high point in their careers, such as this matchup, because it is a matchup that can set up a Azamat Murzakanov with the likes of like a Khalil Roundtree, a Jamal Hill, somewhere around that area. That's where I see Azamat Murzakanov facing next after he finishes Alexander Rakic. But I like that he was able to face the adversity that he did against Dustin Jacoby in that third round, getting a little tired, getting pushed, to damn near the brink, taken down in that fight. Took a little bit of ground and pound, but ultimately he won that fight pretty clear, 29-28. Had two knockdowns in that fight. And if you don't know, Dustin Jacoby is a former glory kickboxer who actually fought Alex Poitin-Pierre. He did get knocked out, but, having that experience is definitely something that weighs in my mind when I'm looking at this matchup, because Rakic is also another kickboxer. Now, Rakic can definitely mix it up better than Dustin Jacoby, but I don't think he's going to look to go to the wrestling here, because the size difference is definitely going to be harder for him to overcome. It's easier for a short guy to take down a taller guy than it is for Rakic to drop down below the hips of Azamat Murzakanov, where he's damn near going to have to be on all fours to do it. So I don't see Rakic going to the wrestling in this matchup. I favor the power for Azamat Murzakanov. I favor the accuracy, and like I said, I favor the pace as well. I think Rakic is a guy who's gonna he's gonna start a little slower, but he, like I said, he throws everything very hard. I think Murzakanov is definitely going to be able to counter the shots that Alexander Rakic is throwing his all to, because he will overextend himself. We will see his chin exposed a couple of times. Does Murzakanov finish him? I believe he can. Does he do it in the first round? I'm not sure, but we have seen Murzakanov carry power late into fights. He has first round finishes, he has second round finishes, he had third round finishes. You go through his record, his last fight, Brendan Ribeiro knockout, who is a 6'3", 81-inch light heavyweight who has power. I feel as though he probably has more power than Alexander Rakic too. Fight before that, Alonzo Minifield knockout in the second round. You go back even further, the Devin Clark knockout in the third round. Murzakanov also has wrestling in his background, so I don't feel as though Rakic is just going to be ragdolling him around if he wants to take it there. If they do get to the clinch, I favor Azamat Murzakanov in the clinch. I feel as though he's the stronger fighter. Like I said, his speed is definitely going to be very deceptive for Rakic, who, if you look at him, yes, he looks like the typical light heavyweight. Whereas when you look at Azamat Murzakanov, he looks like he could be selling subs somewhere. I think Alexander Rakic, yes, this is a step down in competition for him, but I don't think it's going to be necessarily a step down in the cage, because Azamat, the professional Murzakanov, is somebody who I feel as though is more than capable of finishing him better than Yuri Prohaska, possibly, or excuse me, finishing him similar to what Yuri Prohaska did. This matchup is kind of similar to the Magomed Ankalaev fight, where Ankalaev also had a shorter reach than Alexander Rakic. He's a southpaw and also a very good kickboxer. I think Murzakanov might have, I don't think he's faster than Ankalaev, but I think the speed is definitely similar. I think the power is something that Murzakanov has over Ankalaev, and I think he is live to finish Alexander Rakic. So I am all over Azamat Murzakanov as the lock of the week. I feel as though this is one of the fights that definitely popped off on the paper for me, for someone that I wanted to target. And it's not because I'm picking, on Alexander Rakic. Oh, he lost 3 fights in a row, da 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 da. I just don't think he is a top 10 caliber light heavyweight today. I feel as though Murzakanov, who is surging 15-0, 5-0 in the UFC, he's got knockouts, he's won 2 decisions. I feel as though this is a guy who could step in and take Rakic's spot, and I feel as though he's going to do it with full force. I think he's going to knock him out this coming Saturday. So give me Azamat Murzakanov for UFC 321 lock of the week. Now, let's move on to the most confident picks. I got a couple for you, and we're going to start it off. We got Tom Aspinall, Umar Nurmagomedov, Azat Maxim, and Jacqueline Amarim. I'll start with Jacqueline Amarim. I don't think Mizuki is going to come in off of a 2-year layoff and beat Jacqueline Amarim. I feel as though Amarim is better pretty much wherever the fight goes. Definitely don't think Mizuki is going to take her down and submit her. If anyone's going to be doing the wrestling here, I definitely think it's going to be Jacqueline Amarim. You go back to that Sam Hughes fight. She had Sam Hughes in a rear naked choke. Yes, she fumbled it, but Sam Hughes has been known to be the women's strawweight, prospect killer. I don't think Jacqueline Amarim is going to get beat up on the feet. I feel as though she definitely has the power, definitely has a speed advantage. Mizuki, we're going to have to see her, the 2-year layoff is definitely going to have a lot of ring rust on her. I think Jacqueline is going to make, it's hard to say quick work, but I do see Jacqueline Amarim getting a sub here. Probably, I could see it going into the later stages of the first round, maybe second round submission, but I do have Jacqueline Amarim winning by submission. I think she handles, and I think we'll probably see her getting pushed further into the rankings. So give me Jacqueline Amarim. I think she is definitely a lock, sitting at minus 400 currently. Next fighter, we got Azat Maxim, who is also sitting at minus 400. I think he's going to finish Mitch Raposo inside the distance. A lot of people are putting a lot of stock in the Raposo's inside boxing, but, it's going to be a little hard for Raposo to close that distance when he's at such a, reach disadvantage. 5.5 inches is definitely something hard for a guy like him to overcome. He is pretty short. He is going to have to, close distance fast. I don't see that burst of speed when I'm talking about closing distance. Yes, he can do it with the wrestling, but I don't think his boxing is going to, be I don't think he'll be able to do it with the boxing when I'm looking at Azat Maxim, who is a very long, very tricky kickboxer. I think the front kicks are going to be there for him. I think he's going to chop at the leg of Raposo, definitely wear down that wrestling gas tank. I think Azat Maxim could lock in a front head choke, or excuse me, a front headlock choke position with Mitch Raposo shooting takedowns if he wishes to take it there. And I don't think he's going to be able to take Azat Maxim down pretty easily. We saw Azat defend, 8 takedowns against Tagiro Lumbekov. We saw the scrambles that he had with Charles Johnson, who he also had in some compromised positions. I think Maxim is live for a finish here. Both of these guys coming off at 2 losses. I think Azat Maxim is going to bounce back into the win column, and I think he's going to do so by finish. So give me Azat Maxim as one of my most confident picks, sitting at minus 400. Next fighter, we got Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Mario Batista. I feel as though Umar is pretty much a lock here. Granted, I definitely am a fan of Mario Batista. Don't necessarily love this matchup for him, but this is, the sport that we're in. If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And I do think Umar Nurmagomedov is one of the best in the bantamweight division. I feel as though had he not broke his hand against Merab, he probably was going to win that title. He was winning the first 2 rounds, broke his hand. It is what it is. But in this matchup, I feel as though Umar just has every realm of the matchup covered. I feel as though he's the faster striker. I think he's going to be the better wrestler. I feel as though he can dictate the pace of the fight. I don't see Mario Batista being able to get combinations off with him because Umar is not going to stand in front of him like Patchy Mix did and just, stand with the screw face and get boxed up. I feel as though Umar is definitely going to flash those kicks, which is going to be a very good, range dictator for him to see where he needs to shoot from. And that, he uses that front kick like a jab. And that's definitely going to be key to setting up the takedowns. And I do feel as though Umar is going to take down Mario Batista quite a few times throughout this fight. Maybe, garner some really good control time. I think he can definitely threaten with some submissions, and I wouldn't be, shocked if we do see a Umar Nurmagomedov trying to make a statement, trying to get a finish, and maybe finish Mario Batista in the later rounds. Mario has a really good cardio. He has a really good chin, so I'm not saying he's definitely going to do it. I do respect Mario Batista, but I do think Umar Nurmagomedov, who's coming off, the broken hand injury, coming off of, basically being embarrassed by Merab, getting dumped on his back, things like that. I do think he's trying to make a statement. Him here in Abu Dhabi in front of, his hometown, or not his hometown, but his home people. I think he's looking to make a statement. We've seen him fight here. We see how well Umar Nurmagomedov can fight. I think this is just the next step up in the ladder, and I don't think Mario Batista is going to be able to beat Umar Nurmagomedov. I do feel as though Umar is a lock, sitting at minus 625. Not really, a valuable player, but you could definitely put him in some parlays if you want to, beef up the lines. I think Umar Nurmagomedov is a safe bet here. I know he was a large favorite in this matchup against Merab, but that was a hellish matchup. I don't think, Mario is somewhat similar to Merab. He doesn't have the wrestling credentials. He probably has a little bit better control, but I don't think he's going to be able to take Umar down. I think Umar is going to be the one on the offensive wrestling. I feel as though Mario is going to be on the back foot, trying to figure out where this fight is about to go because Umar is just so elite at both stand-up and the wrestling. So I think Umar's a lock. Like I said, I got him in as one of my most confident picks as well. And let's move on to the last one, the big boys, Tommy Boy. I think Tom is a lock here. Where does Cyril Gane beat Tom Aspinall? On the feet? Okay, maybe, right? Tom, I do think he has a few flaws in his boxing, but we haven't seen it yet. We need to see more. I do hope we get to see more of it this fight. But I think Tom Aspinall is going to trade with him on the feet, maybe hurt him, take him down, sub him. I think Tom Aspinall is going to sub Cyril Gane inside of 3 rounds. If we make it there, hey, it could be a first round finish again. And then, who's next for Tom Aspinall? That's really the question, because we've seen Cyril Gane, 4 times now? He was the interim champ, won against Derek Lewis, lost to Francis Ngannou, lost to John Jones, and now here he is again on his 4th go around trying to make himself a champion. I don't think he gets it done. He's already talking about dragging Tom to deep waters, which we haven't seen. Not saying that it's not capable, or that Cyril isn't capable, but there's just the flaw on Cyril Gane is just too wide for him to try and close against Tom Aspinall, who, Cyril Gane in this last year hasn't been only training. He's been filming movies. He's been doing other things. When we've seen Tom Aspinall, he's only training, prepping for a John Jones. So he's prepping for the best of the best of the best, the greatest fighter of all time. And now you're giving me Cyril Gane. I think Tom Aspinall is going to run right through him. Could be a first round finish. I hope we get to see more than one round of Tom Aspinall, but I do think Tom Aspinall is a lock. Sitting at minus 400, I think Tom Aspinall is going to buzz Sauce Aragon. I hope he gets it done by submission. Maybe he gets it done faster than John Jones. If he doesn't, who cares? Hopefully, we get to see a fun matchup for him next time. Maybe it's, the winner of Volkov versus Jailton Almeida, where Volkov was really supposed to be in the spot. But it is what it is. We got Cyril gone. This is probably the, more fun matchup on paper, I guess. But I'm going with Tom Aspinall. I think he's the lock here. So that is what I got for the most confident picks. Now let's move on to my favorite underdogs. I got a couple of them. We got Alexander Volkov, Verna Jandaroba, and Nasrat Haqparast sitting at a close money favorite. I'll start with Verna. I'm not a fan of Mackenzie Dern. I feel as though Verna has been the fighter out of the two to make leaps and bounds of improvement. I think her wrestling is better. Yes, her stand-up is still, still developing, but I do think Verna will be able to force Mackenzie to, overthrow herself, which is something that she does a lot. Yes, Mackenzie Dern is, a IBJF. I don't even know the acronym, but she's a multiple time, black belt jiu-jitsu champion. So, she won't be scared to be taken down, but I do think Verna has better control, where we see Mackenzie Dern scrambling a lot to get back to maybe a top position, or moving her knees, or moving her hips side to side to try and find a submission. But I feel as though Verna is just going to have much better control when we get to the ground. Now, maybe this fight doesn't get to the ground because they both respect how dangerous both of them are. Maybe it's just a striking matchup. Now that it could get a little testy for Verna, but then we could see Mackenzie Dern possibly tire herself out. Then we could see her give up her back. We could see Verna get on, Mackenzie's back and make it dangerous for her. I think Verna is just better everywhere but striking in this matchup. I think we were supposed to get Verna versus Zhang Weili, and that's a completely different matchup because Zhang Weili is, she's pretty elite. She's elite on the feet. She's elite in wrestling. She has slick jiu-jitsu in herself. But I think Mackenzie Dern, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get jiu-jitsu. I think Verna has better grappling. I think she's the better wrestler. Striking is still developing, but I don't think she's going to be a fish out of water. We just saw her, handle Yan Jianan, who is an elite striker, who has power, who can knock you out. So if she was able to handle that, I think she can handle a Mackenzie Dern, who's really reckless on the feet, who has a bad tendency of lifting her chin and just throwing balls to the wall. I think Verna Jandaroba is pretty live to win here. So give me Verna sitting at plus 140. I think she's live to win. And I'm going with the Anu, no matter what. It would have been in Anu anyway. But I think the belt is going back to Brazil. And with the real Brazilian this time, Verna Jandaroba. Next up, we got Alexander Volkov taking on Jailton Almeida. I think Volkov is just a little too much for Jailton Almeida. I know the wrestling and the grappling is there. Yes, we've seen Volkov taken down before. Yes, we've seen him submitted. But if you look throughout that time, he's made a lot of improvements to his game. I know Curtis Blades was able to take him down quite a few times in their matchup, but that was, some time ago. You look through it now, they lost this decision to Cyril Gane. Wasn't really a close fight. I think that was a clear 29-28. Volkov is what it is. But I feel as though the striking is going to give Jailton a lot of issues. I can see him landing, a power jab down the middle. Jailton, I don't really like how he responds to punches. If he's stuck on the feet, not being able to take Volkov down, because I do think he's going to shoot a lot of doubles. And I could see Volkov, I was watching the embedded, they were working on, hey, don't drop your knees to the floor, because it's easier for a guy like a Jailton to power up and, cut the corner on you and take you down, get you down to your back. Volkov has been working on things like that. So there's small key details that I've seen Volkov improve in his grappling defense. And I think he's going to be able to, show it in this matchup. I think if he's able to defend the takedowns and keep Jailton on the feet, he's live to knock him out. I feel as though Volkov is the better fighter everywhere other than jiu-jitsu. I think he's a live dog. I like him at plus 195. I like him in this matchup. I feel as though, it's one way or bust for Jailton Almeida, and that is grappling. Whereas I got Volkov, who was a dangerous striker. We just seen him beat up Sergey Pavlovich for 3 rounds. I feel as though he could use those long limbs of his to keep Jailton at bay. The front kicks will be there. I can definitely see Jailton diving for a leg, eating a front kick to the face, something of that order. I could see him getting jabbed up. The two down the middle, nice slice in the elbows from Volkov. I could see them in clinch positions where Volkov throwing some nasty knees. I just don't think Jailton's gonna be able to run through him like he has been able to with most of these heavyweights. I feel as though this is probably the strongest heavyweight that he's probably gonna run into. We go through his record, it's a Sergey Spivak who's decent. It's a Alexander Romanov who's really just, I think he's just a fat guy. You know what I'm saying? Curtis Blades knocks him out with those hammer fists from that weird position. Derek Lewis, who yes, he took him down quite a lot, but Derek Lewis was able to explode back to his feet. And Lewis isn't the you know strongest guy. Yes, he has a lot of power, but if you look at Derek Lewis, he has a really bad build to defend takedowns. I think he's knock-kneed, honestly, and he's just not good defensively in grappling. That's why most of his fights are by knockout, and he likes to keep it standing. But it is what it is. Jailton Almeida, and then Jairzinho Rosenstrike, who's also just a kickboxer with a kind of built like Derek Lewis. I think Volkov, we've seen him time and time again. He's been able to finish guys, whether it's by knockout, whether it's by submission, whether it's by decision. I think he's live to win, knockout or decision. I think Volkov is going to win, and I like him as an underdog as well. So give me Alexander Volkov sitting at plus 195. I like him this week. I definitely like him this week. Next, we got Nasrat Haqparast sitting at a close money underdog. Currently, the odds are minus 108. I feel as though this is a close fight, but I have to favor, the experience of Nasrat. I have to favor the speed in the pocket. I think he's quicker to the punch than Aquilian Salkid, who's going to be throwing a lot of kicks, who's going to try and force the wrestle. But Nasrat, who has really good cardio, who has really good takedown defense, is definitely going to show him that there's levels in this lightweight division. And Nasrat, who I feel as though is probably one fight away from rankings. We just seen him beat Esteban Ribovics, who has definitely been on a tear since he's made it to the UFC. And the way he was able to trade strikes with him and, win that fight, very impressive. I don't think Quillian Salkid is the guy to get it done. Now, I definitely will be blown away if he finishes a Nasrat, because I do think that is his only way to win. Yes, he won the decision against Yanal Ashmouz, but we also saw a lot of flaws in that matchup. He was gassing out, getting caught by big shots. I think Nasrat is live to beat him here. He's not a pure, plus money underdog, but he's a close money underdog for this matchup. I do like Nasrat to win. I think it's going to come down to the judges' scorecards. I could definitely see it being like a split decision if they're trading. But I favor the volume from Nasrat. I favor the takedown defense. And I also favor the cardio. We've seen Quillian gas. Like I said, I got to favor the guy with the better cardio, the more experience, the better tenured UFC fighter. So give me Nasrat Haqparast sitting at minus 108. I think he's live to win. And yeah, that's what I got for the underdogs. Now, moving on to my favorite section, your favorite section, Makai's Money Making Plays, the parlays. I got a bit for you. Let's get into it. And we're starting it off with most confident. We got three of the most confident people: Tom, Umar, and Jacqueline, sitting at minus 149. Yes, it's not plus money, but you can definitely, build up with that. Then we're going Walter, Azat Maxim, and Ikram Alaskarov, plus 119. Like that play. Then we're going Ludovic Klein and Mateus Camilo, plus 227. I do like Klein to win. Do think it's going to be a testy fight, but I think he's going to get the better of the exchanges. Definitely staying at long range. And I think Camilo's live to win inside the distance. You'll see, later on, I got something with that as well. Plus 227. Then we're going Hail Russia, Volkov and Azamat Mirzakhanov, lock of the week, plus 417. Then we're going Azamat, Mateus Camilo, and Azat Maxim, plus 345. I should have swapped those around. I'm just looking at it now. I'll swap it around in the graphic, but you know what I just read. Then we are going Nasrat, Jose Delgado, who I think is definitely going to be in the fight of the night, possibly. Mateus Camilo and Tom Aspinall, plus 595. Then we are going Azamat, Ludovic Klein, Verna Jandiroba, plus 635. I do think Azamat is live to finish as well. Like I just told you, in the most confident picks. Then we are going Nasrat, Azat Maxim, and Mateus Camilo to win inside the distance, sitting at plus 1286. Then we go Jacqueline, Amarim, Walter Walker, and Tom Aspinall, all to win by submission, plus 1788. And then if you are going against me in the Alexander Volkov pick, I got something for you too. If you want to get, some pretty big money. If you think Jailton Almeida is going to win by sub, here we go. We got Jailton Almeida, Walter Walker, Jacqueline Amarim, and Tom Aspinall, all to win by submission, plus 4808. So if you feel as though not both, but all of those guys and gals are going to get it done by submission, pretty big play. Definitely suggest, you play each of them straight if you want, and then put it in a parlay as well, plus 4808 is some big money. Hey, throw a couple dollars on it if you don't have, the bankroll, but I definitely want to see if that happens. I do think Volkov is going to win. I will be playing Volkov straight, but sometimes you got to hedge yourself. You know what it is? So that's what I got for Makai's Money Making Plays, the parlays. That's what I got for the lock of the week, the most confident picks, favorite underdogs. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the lock of the week. What's your favorite parlay? Who is your lock for this card? Who's your favorite underdog? I'm willing to hear what you guys got to say. And as always, I will see you for the weigh-in recap, full card recap, and we're coming right back at it with the card for next week. So make sure you guys turn on the post notifications. If you like the video, subscribe, drop a comment, drop a W in the chat for your boy, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.